guys. Welcome back to The Moxley View, where we challenge you to stop repeating and start thinking. I'm your host, Tom Moxley, along with the producer, Brandon Gutke. As you can see, I'm sporting the Dodger blue today, probably out of mourning, just wanting baseball to come back. But I wanted to talk about something American today, and what's more American than baseball. But I wanted to get into the discussion of separation of church and state. I want to give you guys a minute to pull out your pocket Constitution, because I'm sure everybody has one, because everybody's always saying, it's in the Constitution! So let's go ahead and pull those out, and I'll go ahead and wait. Everybody have enough time to get that out? Well, I'm sure you didn't, but just so you know, separation of church and state is not discussed in the Constitution, as everybody seems to say. Where it is discussed is in a letter from Thomas Jefferson to the Danbury Baptist Church of Connecticut. So to get some background on this, we have to understand what's going on. There was a time when, and even today, where people are saying that the reason that it was written to the church was to let them know that they could not be part of the government. However, that's going based off of only one letter. You have to look back and see that the letter that Thomas Jefferson wrote was preempted by a letter coming from the Danbury Baptist Church. So that letter was written by the Danbury Baptist Church to Thomas Jefferson out of fear of being oppressed or of being controlled. Now, why would they feel that way? Well, if you look back in history, the reason that that would even happen is because they had just left England, where the Anglican Church, which had infiltrated its way into the government and had become the Church of England, the Anglican Church had become a controlling point with the government of England. So in the midst of that, all of the other churches that were not complying with what the Anglican Church was doing were being persecuted and oppressed, which is one of the main reasons why churches and believers and Christians decided to leave England to find religious freedom. So the Puritans and so forth came over to what is now the United States of America to seek religious freedom. So that is the premise and the background for why the church would be reaching out to Thomas Jefferson out of fear to stop that type of oppression. So this letter that Thomas Jefferson writes back to the Danbury Baptist Church is in regards to that. In this letter, Thomas Jefferson referred to a wall of separation between the church and the state. He said that this wall had been erected to protect them from the government, not to protect the government from them. So this is an important thing to remember, because throughout this, there's always this argument that you hear from people when it comes to talking about the separation of church and state, that God is supposed to stay out of government. Well, I'll cite some evidences that that isn't true here in a minute, but it's important for us to understand that the reason that this was even in place, and that Thomas Jefferson mentioned it, was because he understood the fear that the church was feeling, and he wanted to make sure that they did feel protected from the government. We have to also look at the fact that there was two different types of definitions that take place here. There was the denominational church and a doctrinal church. Differences are that the doctrinal church would be just like, say, Christianity in general. And yes, within those there may be different doctrines taught, but a doctrinal church would be on the lines of Christianity. But within Christianity, there are many different denominations. So what was taking place in England at the time was that a specific denomination became the national church for that country. Other churches were oppressed. So the point that Thomas Jefferson was making was that there would be religious freedom here. People could practice their religion, practice their faith without the fear of being overcome by a specific denomination that would then be cited as the church of that country, in this case, the United States of America. The Constitution does, however, make a statement in saying, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. So what does this mean? That they will make no law that will control the church or do anything along those lines. So is that saying that the church cannot be part of the government? Absolutely not. That's saying that the government is supposed to keep their hands out of the dealings of the church. And as we know, the Declaration of Independence tells us that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. Among those are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We have to understand in that too that we are told that these rights are given to us by who? But by our Creator. So it kind of seems funny to me that people would be fighting for these rights yet not even believe in God, when these rights aren't given to us by a government, they're given to us by God. These are just things to think about as you read through certain stuff. When people say that our country was not founded on Christian principles or God was not in it, we have countless evidences that prove otherwise. Okay, guys, I want to read off a list of just a few evidences that proves that God is part of our government. So when we're talking about, once again, the separation of church and state, this is, in my opinion, proving that God is supposed to be there. So here are a few. Emblazoned over the Speaker of the House in the U.S. Capitol are the words, "In God we trust." If we look at our money, same thing. In God we trust. The Supreme Court building, built in the 1930s, has carvings of Moses and the Ten Commandments. God is mentioned in stone all over Washington, D.C. and its monuments. Oaths in courtrooms are invoked. God from the beginning. Every president has given an inaugural address that mentioned the name God. We have to understand, guys, that we cannot just turn our backs on God. We wonder why things happen the way they happen in our schools. Well, God's been taken out. In the government, well, God's been taken out. There's reasons that this is happening because there's an agenda behind people that are trying to do these things. And unfortunately, we are manipulated in such a way that we believe that when someone tells you, it's in the Constitution, that it's not there. Sometimes we think we win arguments because we can speak louder or angrier than someone that we're having a discussion with. That's not how you win an argument. You win an argument by looking at the facts and trying to figure it out. And the fact of the matter is, it doesn't matter how many arguments that you win or how many arguments that you lose. What matters is that you're doing what's right before God. We need to be seeking after Him. We need to be looking for the things that are godly, that are built on the foundation of God, and stand for those things. So in this, what I'm saying is that we as a society and we as a church need to stand on the moral truths that this country was founded upon. So anybody that wants to say that this country is not for this or is not for that, let's look back and see what it was founded on. We have all this paperwork right in front of us that we can look at and we can see. God is everywhere in the founding of this country. God was being used in every avenue possible as this country was built. Yet we have taken God out of everything that we possibly can. And then we wonder why this and why that. Because are we truly one nation under God? It's hard to say right now. I would like to believe that we are, but I'm not 100% sure of that. Something, guys, that I think that we need to be very clear on and try very hard to understand is that the premise of separation of church and state has been twisted to a point where now that it's only an understood meaning of church, stay out of the government. It's super crucial that we get that reversed because now it's just an understood meaning. It has no legal grounds, no benefit to it, nothing whatsoever except to fit an agenda to keep the church from having the ability to speak into what is happening with the government. We are at a place in our nation's history where never before have we needed to stand up so strongly and stand for what God stands for. Okay, I want to read a quote out of an article. It's in allabouthistory.org. And what this states is, in 1892, the Supreme Court came down with a decision. And in that decision, the Supreme Court declared, "This is a Christian nation." John Quincy Adams said, "The highest glory of the American Revolution was, it connected in one indissoluble bond the principles of civil government with the principles of Christianity." If that doesn't tell us where we were as a country then, I'm not sure what does. We need to stand up for those things. We need to be prayerful about these things, and we need to be seeking God in every moment of every day to get our country back to where it should be. We are living in a time where there is tremendous persecution on the church. And I'm not talking about America. We live here and everything's fine. We don't really care because things are so easy for us. But around this globe, things are taking place all the time that the church is persecuted. But where are we? We're living in a country that was founded on Christian principles and on seeking after God and serving God, and have become one that wants to destroy monuments and history and get rid of it. And as that saying goes, those who forget history are destined to repeat it. And as we know, the entire premise of this channel is to stop repeating and start thinking. Remember that. We can't do that. We can't destroy things that got us to where we are today. Those are the things that help us to learn and to grow. So we as a society and as a foundational Christian church have to stand up for the righteous and do what is right in the eyes of God. So thank you for joining us today. And until next time, we'll see you then. Hey guys, thank you so much for joining us today. I know that there are other things that you could be doing. Please like us on all the social media platforms. Please give us a thumbs up here and definitely subscribe. And if you liked it, share it with your friends. And if you didn't like it, share with them anyway. Maybe they have better taste than you.